what general things are being discussed in regards to the changing global themes? 'Cause I know there's a couple of open merge requests that, and I know that there was it the meeting that you guys were having? You maybe would discuss stuff today, I think, or
That was
yesterday.
Monday.
Okay.
Monday.
Okay.
So it's notes on plasmadevel.org. Yes, so I mean, it's things which are happening. I mean, it's something we all knew. So, as people right now wanting to do is very knee-jerk reactions.
Right.
Of this has existed for 10 years, but now we need to shut it down completely.
I did see someone who delete KNU stuff. We don't need it.
Yeah, shut it all down. And we don't want to just jump into something. We definitely need to address things. We don't need to jump into things. Especially as we have stepped up in moderation on server side as well, which is something happening somewhat transparently in the background. Mm-hmm. So, there's things happening. So we are separating the different types of content to have different warning messages, because we wanted to change that warning message when you first download it. Because that's like the initial step that we can get to users within a few weeks when your translations come in.
So that's the warning message if you go to get new, the little box at the top. Yeah, okay. Because right now what it says, for anyone who doesn't know, what it says right now is the content available here has been uploaded by users like you and is not being reviewed by your distributor for functionality or stability. Which is a fine message, but my issue is it didn't mention KDE there. Because it's on the KDE store, it's sort of implied that it's reviewed by KDE because they don't mention it in the warning. It's a weird message. Yeah,
and it is reviewed by people who are KDE people. I mean, you mentioned Nate, there's Justin, there's a bunch of other people. It's not
right, but it's not like every single theme's being reviewed.
Yeah. So our message is changing, but we don't want to just blindly change it because then it's just ignorable. If we change it so downloading a JPEG anime wallpaper, which there's too many of, if that has a big warning, everyone's just going to ignore a warning.
Absolutely.
So it's about trying to make it more specific so people actually look at it. So that's the first step that's happening. That's going to land very soon. Mm-hmm. And then architecturally, in global themes, is something that's just grown and grown and grown into this monster, where we didn't care about security because it was never intended for it. Right. So now we're just trying to split stuff out of that and then replace that with some new mechanism. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the first step is just coming up with new ways to do things that people were doing that could have been done before into these separate channels. Mm-hmm. So if a distribution needs to change lock screen, they've got an option to do that. But that doesn't necessarily need to be distributed on the store. It can be separate channels, that sort of thing. In fact, probably doesn't need to be on the store at all. That sort of level of unnecessary customization. Some people need it. I mean, I know we've got quite a lot of government deployments, and certainly one of the big cities. They've got a lock screen. They replaced the background with a video of the city before you can unlock your screen, because that was important to them. The city of Munich had various things. So a big deployment, you need to be able to provide these hooks. Mm-hmm. So
mine. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but the lock screen themes are an especially security issue-y one, because it depends on the way that SDDM was set up on that distro. I know Neon has it in its own SDDM user, but some will run it as root.
No, I don't think that's true. So SDDM always has a tiny part that runs as root. Mm-hmm. And then a tiny part runs as another user. Mm-hmm. And you'd have to explicitly go out of your way to get that wrong. Mm-hmm. So it will always run as another user, but it's two steps. So you agree to part where you've got your visuals on screen, but you do need some back end part running as root. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't ever be a case where that front end runs as root. Mm-hmm. There is a case where you can configure the X server beneath that to run as root.
Right.
But that's for different reasons. Historical.
Yeah. But I think splitting things out into their own, like I know there's like some discussion here about like splitting all the code out into its own separate code stuff and then having the themes be just purely cosmetic themes. I don't know if that's going to be what happens in the long run, but I know it has had a little bit of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, the themes themselves are. I mean, this is one of the problems of that news cycle. Is people you get your blog spam comments who read a news article and then they paraphrase it, and then somebody else reads that article, paraphrases it, and then you go on. And then when those people write it and you read it, it makes it sound like the sort of theme that could be replaced by CSS or metadata has some security hole in it. And there was never a security hole like that. It was just bad communication. So those themes already should be safe. I mean, we're not going to make any promises. They need a good review from years, but they are just metadata, so they are already individually downloadable. So finding an alternative way to group that together without having any of the other stuff that Global Themes has is probably on the cards.
I think, I do think that's for the best. That's obviously like a long-term thing. I think more short-term stuff is definitely like sorting out a way to handle the warning message. Like that's obviously you need to deal with translation, and like translation's a big problem because you want to make sure like the tone and the severity are like similar levels across the different languages, which I'm sure is a absolute nightmare for the translation people.
I've not got no way to review it, so
hopefully they know what they're doing with that.
Our translation team, from what I've heard, are awesome. So you don't hear good feedback from people saying that. Obviously, it depends on the language, I'm sure. But and then our translation framework, I assume it's quite common. But you have your message, but can also write another message that only translators can see, where you can say, "This is what I'm trying to say in the part you're translating." So you can provide them.
So it's like notes for the translation.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Actually, regarding the message, there is one thing that I do think is weird about the way it's handled. Like the way it's currently being handled. So, you can like set an accent color, and that is used for like, I don't know, highlighting things and all that. Why does the accent color affect the info box window? Like the little, the box that the text is in on that?
I don't know. It's clearly deliberate.
Because I've got my accent color set to red, so my info boxes are now red, which is obviously not what info box is supposed to be.
I think it's a problem with configuration. If you provide too much, where's the line? What should be configured? What shouldn't?
Right.
I know. I do fall into don't theme my apps category type of person. So.
Well, I'm running Breeze Dark right now. The only thing I've changed regarding to the theme is the accent color.
And look what's happened. No, I think that's deliberate. I mean, there's different categories or when you have these inline messages.
Yeah.
What you want to convey. And if you hard code colors, you will upset some people, but some things should be. So it's a balance.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to just punt that question to some designers.
It's not like a major deal, I guess, but it's just something I did notice that seemed a little bit off to me. But
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's kind of funny that you had this situation happen so close to the Snap situation, like just a few days prior, because like you can kind of like look at the response from both, and I think the way KDE's handled things is actually really good. Look, the canonical response is interesting, to say the least. I don't know if you want to get into that, but I
don't know much about canonical store situation.
They didn't do anything.
Say again, sorry?
They didn't do anything until Alan Pope made a thread on the forum, was like, "Hey guys, can you like stop people uploading like for a couple of days?"
There are parallels. I mean, we knew the store was in this situation, and we acted when the social media stuff hit. Because, I mean, that really emphasised how much connector was between what those comments were saying of I didn't know this. So I mean, that's why we're acting. So in terms of, I mean, you're right, because I mean, I've always had this attitude of, well, you're downloading third-party add-on. But it's no different, and I think I even use that phrase in my comments, it's no different to your Snap Store having malware. And then I look down and there's like people complaining about the Snap Store having malware. And okay, right, that parallel is correct, but it's not an excuse. It's just a statement.
What do you think about the idea of changing the name of global themes? Assuming that, I think if they...
it needs to happen.
If they are just themes, I think global themes fine. But if you're going to have code in there, I don't know what the best name would be. Like, cause like the global themes in their current state are kind of like they're like a mega add-on. I don't really... Nate suggested like having the word package or plugin in there. I don't know what a good word for it would be though. That's the thing.
The best one I've seen in the comment section was full desktop mod. And I quite like that.
I like it as well. I don't know though. Like naming things are hard, right? Like
naming things is hard. I mean, that's the biggest problem in computer science, right? So naming things. I mean, underneath this is called a look and feel package. That's a technical term that's still there. Also not a good name.
Naming things is hard, and that's why we have a window manager called TWM, Tom's Window Manager.
Good name.
Yeah, it's a fine name. Works just fine.
Works well for Tom.
Yeah. So, I guess that's pretty much all that needs to be said on the global theme stuff, because right now it's in the process of being resolved, and like it's not 100% clear like what those resolutions are fully going to be.
No, I mean, it's going to be a gradual process. It's immediate actions. And then, I mean, long term, we've talked about being able to run some of these things from getting them from FlatHub and running in a sandbox environment. And it's tech demos for all of this that spans back years as gradual progress on some of these things, like our search providers. So when you type in alt space and you can start searching, it used to be a set of plugins, and plugins are
I've never used
bad.
That. I've never used that binding.
Wow. Okay, we're going to talk about your Plasma experience because I think you've handicapped yourself in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
Again, discoverability. I guess that's and messaging. So you've got this feature which you're now going to love and use. You can search for anything, and that's backed by plugins, and plugins are limited. Plugins are a problem. So just from security, because you can't sandbox part of an application. And also just distribution. It's distributing a binary is a mess. So we've got all of those out of process. So they could be completely sandboxed. They can be downloadable from this from FlatHub in theory. It's just some hooks on getting that integration to say, oh, this is actually not an application, but I want to be debug activated and whatnot. So just these tiny little hooks remaining, but a lot of our core infrastructure is there. So, there's all of that stuff happening around, and it's going to be amazing in 10 years, maybe.